Alright, I'm back again. And this time I'm following up on the current state of Fnatic Part 2, if you want to call it that this time. And this time I'm not doing it with a live video because that was horrendous. And it was due to me being in a summer house and I had no way to do it from my desktop. So I only had the raw film and the audio from my camera, and that was the only way to make the video. I'm sorry. Uh, yeah. And today, in the light of the departure of Daylor, um, I felt it was necessary to address my feelings about it because I really care for the team as a fan, of course, and I'm really mixed. I have mixed feelings about this decision, but I think it's the right one in the end because when the team doesn't, you could call it the locker room isn't responding to your signals as a coach, it's over. And it really seemed like the players didn't care. Or they did care on a certain level, but in the end, they didn't pull through. They didn't make it work. And I have to say, I don't think some parts of this is actually the success of last year being the downfall of this year because I don't think, even though I know Taylor is probably the brightest coach on the circuit, the LCS circuit, and he's a really intelligent man. I don't think he had any experience handling a team, not himself, in when it's going downwards, when the team is falling apart. He had no experience in it, and he never learned it before this season. And it's way harder than you would think, and it's really hard when you have already experienced success and you know what it takes, and now you're trying to replicate this once again and trying to be great once more, and this time it's just not working. No matter what they're trying, it seemed like there was no response from the. Of course, there was some response in the literal sense, but not when you were looking at them as playing. It was only in the first few weeks you could see the motivation and all the excitement of playing shine through, and that gradually it just turned more and more into a linear trend where you could just see it spiraling out of control at the end, where it was just trending downwards all the way, like when you're looking at the broke stocks, and you can just see it all the yeah all the I can't even remember what it's called, but just the whole place going down. You can just see the trend from a mile away, and it's so simple, and it's so simple from outside to see it, but it's really hard. And I admire Taylor for everything he's done so far, but also for admitting when time is up and not lingering too long, because he couldn't do it in the spring season. And I know it's a rough time to do the pull the plug at the moment, but something needs to happen, and this is it for Fnatic. This season can potentially be a huge disaster for the organization when you compare it to all the other seasons, and this could really mess up the team if they're not solving the problem. And I think it's all about the mentality in the team. On the team, it's just seem like everybody is not playing for each other. They're not trying to help each other. Of course, they're trying to help each other to a certain extent, but not in game. You don't seem. You just, like I mentioned there, my previous video on the current state of Fnatic, which you can find on my channel. Shameless promotion. Woohoo! But you could see, I'm as an outside perspective, I can just see everybody just playing for themselves and trying to save their own reputation, their own renown. I don't know. It just seems like nobody cares for each other to a certain extent, and I would really like to see somebody just step up to the plate and saying, this is what we need to do as a player, because I'm not feeling like Bora Yellowstar is leading the team at all. And he has achieved tremendous things in his career, but this is it. This is it, where you can see what he really is, at least at the moment, and what he's capable of doing, and why he should be the captain. And I really don't give a damn about Spirit's feelings or other things, because he's a professional. Or Reckless and Feb Evans' stupid partying, even though I know they're putting in the work, but this is time to buckle down, or whatever you call it. You need to tighten everything now to pull together, be a team like they've always done in the playoff situations. And I think really this roster is capable of doing something, and it's not as good as last year, but last year's edition had some flaws as well. And this, for example, the jungle wasn't brilliant. It was good at pressuring the lanes and keeping up, but Spirit is capable of dominating a jungle. They weren't last year, and this year they really got another dimension, and I think they can do certain things, but they need to stop being so stubborn about their picks. They need to take off their blindfolders in the pick and ban, and I couldn't care less if they would like to have their comfort champions. If it's not meta and it's not fitting any scheme or comp wise, it's get out. I don't care if they I can't play to perfection. I don't care. You need to be able to play have some diverse champion pool, and I don't give a rat's ass about you not feeling comfortable because you're being paid to play a game, and you're saying, and at least half a dozen of these guys have been there for a long time. They had endless time to at least have enough experience to be able to play this, and I'm getting sick of it, at least when you're looking at a guy like Reckless. And okay, you can call it shots fired and everything you want. I have a great respect for him. But I would not want to see an interview with him afterwards. I knew I should have played Tristana or Ashi, or whatever you call her, after the playoffs. Because these champions, I've seen him play it before to an okay extent. And these champions are so meta at the moment, and I've not seen him play neither of these champions, and I'm getting so frustrated when I'm seeing him locking in Jin with a composition not matching it as well, matching it that kind of pick, because you cannot pick Jin, at least as a Fnatic member. You gotta realize this is as a team, and there are totally not locked in for dominating a lane, and it makes no sense why you would pick it in certain compositions when the team had no way of stopping the other team from just diving him. And Reckless has a bad tendency sometimes to get picked off, and Yellowstar is roaming, or at least trying to. He's not. He is actually. If you watch closely, he is still doing it, but it's getting into a pattern, and I think the opponents are getting the better of him at the moment. And at least with the next few patches coming, I would really love to see a mentality shift from Spirit. And this is the time where you could. I don't care if Reckless is great in the late game. I want to see some early game. This meta is suited for early game and mid game. And I can't stress enough how much it's pulling Fnatic down as a team. When the only lane they basically had for 2 years is the top lane and the jungle. And sometimes the mid lane when Thibaven is feeling alright and is not stressed down and is clearly affected by this situation. I would just like to see them play something they know they have. Make some great compositions, have certain champions you all know you can play alright, not great, but fits a certain scheme, a certain plan, a certain compositions you know would work out, and then figure out some other champions, of course, because the opponent could easily figure that out, but have some certain, just have a list of a lot of champions. I know they will do it, but it doesn't seem like it's really working in game or in the draft, because sometimes they're just picking things that doesn't make sense. Have a lot of you can figure out quite easily which kind of champions fits the meta and which one you can't pick, and at least figure out when you're in the draft and it's maybe been messed up a bit from your end of from your perspective, and figure out which champion can we then pick and not panic. For Christ's sake, they're panicking in the drafts, and it just getting more and more hopeless for each time they're trying, because they're trying to solve everything with comfortness. And this team really needs to be out of their comfort zone. It seems so irrational to say that, but sometimes you need to feel alive and feel like you have to risk something. And at the moment, the only thing Fnatic, the team, is risking at the moment is probably one of them getting kicked in the off season, because it seems like everybody of them are so certain they can stay on the team forever. At least, I would say at least Reckless and Yellowstar seems like they got a certain spot, even though they don't. And I would really love to see them gambling a bit. They got everything to prove. And that doesn't mean you're picking safe things. That means you're actually putting something on the line, other than going to a final or semi-final. Final. And I think this is the way Fnatic needs to head towards. And then they need to solve the infrastructure. They need to figure out with each player what. Of course, it's really hard with the new coaching. They need to figure out if he's capable, this new guy, of coaching at all, or if he's just a strategist or whatever it is. But they need a head figure in their locker room, and that where it all stems from. There is no leader. There is no identity on the team. They need to figure out ASAP what they want to do right now in this meta, where you can't go late game. You can, of course you can, but it's really hard to focus on it. And that was probably what this group wanted to do, but that's not the case at the moment. And it probably won't be at Worlds either. So I think Fnatic right now needs to sit down and talk with each other, figure out what is our style, how can we make this group work together, not each part working, but how can we work as a unit together, because there's no unity in this group at the moment. And this is not about going to a boot camp. It's simple fundamental things in the locker room. Speaking out about the situation, venting out the frustration, and then start from scratch, and have some fucking respect for the coach. And don't have stubbornness. Be open. Open your mind and look and see where you're at the moment, and it's not looking great. And then figure out that you need to make a change. And that is the essence of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. check out my channel. Ciao.